Deal. Hey, Peter.
Lisa, thanks very much. I'm here with Senator Mark Warner, the Democrat from Virginia, one of the leaders of the Gang of Six bipartisan senators who tried to craft that compromise, came up with a plan last week. Now we're left with this situation. We've got a Boehner plan. We've got a Reid plan. Are we headed for collision here?
Well, I don't know. And I think, frankly, I was a little pleasantly surprised that we didn't see more of a downturn in the markets overnight, both in Asia and here. I still think, our framework, $3.7 trillion, bipartisan, tax reform, entitlement reform, spending cuts, ought to be in the mix more. We're trying to continue to move that forward. Because remember, getting past the debt ceiling is just step one. We've still got to actually have a real plan to reduce the debt.
And what's your sense right now about the competing plans that are on the front burner right now? Certainly people are still talking about your plans, but you've got Senator Reid making his plan public in just about an hour or so, and you've got Speaker Boehner putting his plan on the table, which calls for a debt ceiling increase, but again calls for another vote perhaps later on this year.
Well, one of the concerns I have about Speaker Boehner's plan, and here's the Standard & Poor's report that says if we simply kind of lurch along with these short-term debt extensions, that could lead to a downgrade. I'm not sure that solves our problem. Leader Reid's approach has got more spending cuts. It takes us north of $2 trillion. It still doesn't get us all the way there. We're still going to have to come back and do additional beyond that, but at least it gives us a bit of time so we don't have this kind of sword of Damocles hanging over all of our heads. Because I think, as the Bloomberg viewers know, but I'm not sure all Americans know, is if we have a debt downgrade, if we have a default, that is the worst of all circumstances, because that's an immediate tax increase on every American family in terms of higher interest rate costs, from everything from government to schools to the question of home mortgages, loans, business loans, as well as the fact that it'll probably be included with a large downturn in the market.
There's been a suggestion from S&P from that report. They'd be prepared to move even before August 2nd if they don't see real progress towards $4 trillion in deficit reduction over the next 10 years. It doesn't look like we're going to be anywhere close to that.
Well, Peter, that's why we've been saying for some time we got to get past the kind of blame game here. And I'm not saying our plan's perfect by any means. It's got a lot of holes. We've been attacked by both the left and the right on it. But we've got more than a third of the Senate signed on to it, an almost equal number of Democrats and Republicans. There's nothing else in town that is comprehensive and bipartisan the way our approach is. So if we can cobble this on, if the so-called Reid-McConnell new commission approach, if we can cobble this on as a fallback position or a starting point, we're trying to look at that as well. But I think the next 24, 36 hours are going to be pretty wild.
Do you have any indication from Senator Reid, Senator McConnell, that they're open to that?
We met with them last week. They were concerned the speaker might not appreciate our plan. But listen, we're the only comprehensive bipartisan effort. We're the only plan out there that gets us close to that $4 trillion mark. We're the only one that's got tax reform, entitlement reform, and spending cuts in it. I sure as heck think I'd take this bird in the hand versus all these possibilities of a commission having some golden egg in the bush.
What about the market reaction thus far? There's a suggestion out there that the lack of market reaction gives people a sense of complacency, that they don't have to cut a deal sooner rather than later. What's the risk here?
Peter, I was surprised there wasn't a bigger market reaction. I think the market continues to think that the institution is not so inept that it won't step up and do what it needs to be done. But when you've got more than a quarter of the House that say they're not going to vote for any debt increase under any circumstances, I would be hedging my bets a little bit more. And my fear is, this drags on another day or two, and then we may have a panic. And frankly, since we've used fiscal policy and monetary policy already in the past, we don't have those tools left in our tool chest. And I think it could be a very, very ugly couple of days if we don't get some plan in place.
A very, very ugly couple of days. That reassurance from Senator Mark Warner, the Democrat of Virginia. The latest on the debt ceiling debate here in Washington.